Hello, my name is Andrea Zufelt, and I work for the City of Kentwood in the Court Probation Department. And I am providing you with some tips and tricks to deal with some shin splints if you plan on either starting to run or are having trouble with shin splints while you're running. I've suffered many years with shin splints and have found that if I don't do certain stretches before my 5 or 10Ks, that my shin splints will flare up about halfway through a race, and walking the remainder is my only option, which is very frustrating. So, with that being said, I have certain things that I do ahead of time, 2 moves, and they're fairly easy, don't need a lot of space. I usually do them when I'm in group lineup waiting for the start line to go. And I found that if I do these before and then maybe start off a race walking about 1/10 of a mile before I start my run, that my shin splints either don't flare up during my run or mildly flare up to where I can still at least run and get done with my race in time. So, the 2 moves that I generally utilize are walking on my toes to enhance and work my calves, and then walking on my heels like a duck walk, that stretches the tendons and membranes around the ankle and up through the shin and calves so that you're stretching them both kind of backwards and forwards. So, for example, walking on your toes is fairly easy, obviously. Everybody kind of knows how to do that. And so I just pick some space and go back and forth, and then alternate that with walking on my heels, which sometimes seems a lot more difficult than it looks. You've got to really work on some balance with this thing too, but it also works up through your hamstrings. And the importance of working your hamstrings also makes it easier for any IT band issues as well as any shin splint issues. Also strengthening your calves so that you don't have any sort of calf cramping or anything like that when you're running. So I do each move back and forth for about 5 minutes. And like I said, I'll even do it in the big group of people waiting to start the race, and work those areas and then start my race off with a walk. Once that is pretty much done, I start my run slowly. I'm not a fast runner by any means. I'll be the first to tell everybody that. And I don't run races to podium or win anything. I know that that's not really going to happen with me, but I run the race to beat myself every single time and see how much better I feel. I know a race goes very, very well if I feel good about how I did after, as opposed to if I have shin splints that flare up in the middle of a race and I'm walking the rest of the way, it's just not happening. I'm feeling really, really poorly about my performance, and just reminding myself that I should have probably looked at stretching things a little bit more before the race, and I probably lacked on that. Sometimes you get in the excitement of racing and you have plans and you have all of these things and you just forget to do some things, and stretching before is really important, but it's also something that can slip your mind, even though you might be around a ton of people who are stretching like crazy. Everybody's stretching is different, but the important thing is to make sure that if you do any stretching, that your body is at least warmed up prior to stretching, especially if you're going to do any static stretching or just like straight leg stretching. So if you're stepping back with a leg to stretch your quads or hamstrings, you're going to want to make sure that your body is warmed up so that you don't pull a muscle or get injured down the line. And doing those 2 moves that I showed you, the duck walk and walking on your toes, really helps to warm up the lower body so that you can then do additional stretches, like putting your toe up against a post so that you stretch those calves and everything else too. That's not something you want to really start off with by any means. So hopefully this helps. If you have, any issues with stretching or anything like that, feel free to always, look up different ways to stretch. There's really no wrong way to stretch as long as you're warmed up, and stretching is different for everyone. So don't always look at what everyone else does or what everyone else recommends. Do what you think works for you and play around with it when you're doing your practice runs. Good luck.